Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Food for the Faithful channel with me, Bill Reimer, your reluctant prophet. I've got a doozy for you today. And I'll begin with a scripture, which is always a good place to begin, from Matthew 10, verse 16, in the King James Version, from the King James Version. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. The conservative movement has a fatal blind spot. They are screaming bloody murder in reaction to the myriads of things their postmodern opponents do, but to little avail. Why, you say? The postmodernists responsible for attacking reason itself believe in their truth, as though truth itself is a subjective matter. Rational conservatives often fail to understand that postmodernism is actually a religion which requires no proof of its validity. This is why its converts embrace it with blind faith and religious zeal. I was watching Bridge City News anchor Hal Roberts interview Reverend Alistair Petrie of Partnership Ministries last night. I found the interview disconcerting, since neither Hal nor Alistair appeared to have a grasp of the nature of the ideological possession that is causing our current political, moral, and spiritual crisis. They spoke in depth of the results of radical policies being fomented today by postmodernists and cultural Marxists, but never once did they identify the ideological sources for the disruption in society and good government. They simply kept referring of the need to trust in God in the midst of this chaos. Now, I emphatically agree with the need to trust God. But what are we to trust Him for, if not to understand the nature of the false doctrines which are causing this chaos? But they didn't deal with the heresies behind the chaos. So let us examine how the church in the first millennia reacted to such issues. In the early church, there were seven ecumenical councils that addressed false doctrines and clarified Christian orthodoxy. These councils are the First Council of Nicaea in 325, the First Council of Constantinople in 381, the Council of Ephesus in 431, the Council of Chalcedon in 451, the Second Council of Constantinople in 553, the Third Council of Constantinople between 680 and 681, and the Second Council of Nicaea in 787. These councils played a crucial role in defining key aspects of Christian theology and combating heresies. I provide all the links. So what is postmodern relativism? Postmodern relativism is a philosophical concept that emerged from postmodernism, a movement characterized by broad skepticism, subjectivism, and relativism. It challenges the idea of absolute truths and asserts that truth is relative to the individual or culture. In essence, postmodern relativism suggests that what is considered true or right for one person or group may not be true or right for another. This perspective denies the existence of universal truths and emphasizes the importance of context, perspective, and interpretation. All the links from that section below that. The other major source of what we can broadly refer to as the woke thinking behind our prevailing cultural crisis is known as cultural Marxist critical theory. Postmodern relativism and cultural Marxist critical theory have some overlapping ideas, but also significant differences, which lead to contradictions. Postmodern relativism emphasizes that truth and moral values are relative to individual perspectives or cultural contexts. It challenges the idea of universal truths and often focuses on deconstructing established narratives and power structures. Cultural Marxist critical theory, on the other hand, is rooted in Marxist thought and focuses on critiquing and changing society by addressing power dynamics, social hierarchies, and oppression. It seeks to understand how cultural institutions perpetuate inequality and aims to promote social justice. While both theories critique traditional power structures, they differ in their approach to truth and knowledge. Postmodern relativism's emphasis on the relativity of truth can be seen as contradictory to cultural Marxist critical theory's goal of uncovering and addressing objective social injustices. All the links for that below that section. Now, how do we reconcile these contradictions between these two major aspects of woke thinking? Reconciling the contradictions. So the two main sources of the prevailing ideological possession contradict one another, since postmodernism states there is no grand narrative, while cultural Marxism is, in and of itself, a grand narrative. It obviously requires faith to believe in two things which reason ought to cancel out. But socialists have never worried about such contradictions. Allow me to refer back to my previous blogs and vodcasts about Hegelian dialectics. Here we see that postmodernism is presented as a thesis, cultural Marxism as antithesis, and the synthesis of both is a merging of two contradictory ideas into one new reality. This obviously requires faith, which leads me back to my first conclusion. Christianity has been pitted against these heresies, and sadly, there is no current ecumenical council willing to take on the task of exposing these false doctrines that are Gnostic mysteries to their core. Only those who have been initiated into the belief system can possibly comprehend such irrational thinking, and only then, when its high priests tell the collective what they must think. This is why they despise the individual. In this, they have become the metaphorical manifestation of the Borg from Star Trek, where resistance is futile and you will be assimilated over my dead body. This is why what we call the left appears to be crazy to the rational and the godly mind. But it is sadder than even what I have described at this point, since the main critics of this quasi-religious ideological idiocy are atheists. Dr. James Lindsay is the founder of the website New Discourses, which is owned by conservative commentator Michael O'Fallon. Lindsay's video series is also hosted by Sovereign Nations, O'Fallon's Christian national website. According to theologian and author David W. Congdon, framing the left as an alternative religion has made Lindsay popular among the Christian right. Yet Lindsay himself is an atheist. And then we have Canada's own Dr. Gad Saad, also an atheist, who is renowned for defining the minds of the radical left as parasitized by bad ideas. Dr. Gad Saad, the host of the enormously popular YouTube show, The Sad Truth, exposes the bad ideas, which he calls idea pathogens, that are killing common sense and rational debate, incubated in our universities and spread through the tyranny of political correctness. These ideas are endangering our most basic freedoms, including freedom of thought and freedom of speech. Needless to say, it is an indictment on the state of the church today that atheists have had to take up the cause of reason discourse to expose the faux religious Gnostic nature of the wacky ideas that permeate every aspect of modern life, with Canada's own Prime Minister as the poster child for mind viruses which are responsible for our social, moral, economic, and spiritual ruin. It is long overdue that the church take up her cross to go forward as Christian soldiers that Christ is, as the Christian soldiers that Christ has called us to be. I, for one, will never be silent until the day that God takes me home. I will do everything within my power by God's good grace to expose the godless quasi-religious heresies that lie at the epicenter of our cultural malaise. There is no such thing as an irreligious person, for if we reject God, just as Nietzsche has forewarned, we must become gods ourselves by inventing sacred rituals and games that in our recent past resulted in the murder of countless millions. These are things to think about and pray about on this October the 25th. I hope you enjoyed that short little blog. Leave your comments and criticisms. Share this with your family and friends, and dare to debate not subjective truth. Dare to debate what can be proven to be true. God bless you all.